What's up guys, it's Ella. Welcome to my channel whether you are new here or not. Today we are going to be doing my July wrap-up. So July was not the best reading month for me. I read, I think 7 books, which is less than I was hoping. Okay, so I read less books than I was hoping. And I didn't read very many books off of my TBR at all. And the books that I did read, I didn't like that much. So, all in all, it was a fine reading month. I did have one 5-star read, so it was okay, but not the one I was hoping for, and that's alright. We are going to make August fantastic. Now, let's just stop complaining and talk about the books that I read. The first book that I read in August was The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This book, first of all, love the cover. Second of all, I gave this book 5 stars, and I think it might be the only book from this month that I rated above a 4-star. Can't totally remember, but I'm pretty sure. This book is about Florence Day, who is a ghostwriter for a really famous romance author, and one day her longtime boyfriend, breaks up with her in a really big and terrible way, and she doesn't believe in love anymore, which is weird because she's believed in love her whole life and she's like a romance writer, you know? She's really struggling to write the last book on her contract. There's 4 romance books that she has to ghostwrite, and she's only written 3 of them. And she goes to her new editor and she says, hey, I would like to make this last one maybe not have a happy ending, and his name is Ben. And Ben says no. Ben says, no, you are a romance writer, you need to write romance. So that night, while things are going so well for her, she gets a call that her dad dies, and she goes back to this town where she didn't leave on the best terms, and her family owns this funeral home, and she has to go back to this town for her dad's funeral and confront a lot of things from her past. The kicker, the dead part, you'd think it would be the funeral home, but no, Florence sees ghosts. Okay? Florence can interact with the dead. Not all the dead, just some of the dead. And at her dad's funeral, who shows up in ghost form outside of her family's funeral home but Ben, the book editor. I know. I was pretty excited about it too. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. I went into this book, and when I read like the title, I know maybe I should have thought it was about ghosts, but I didn't. Just didn't. I thought it was just like a clever title. No, it's actually about literal ghosts, and I ended up loving it. Like, I started it and I was like, uh-oh, this could be an issue because how's this gonna end happily? I loved it. It was so good. The setting was just like, I wish I had read this in the fall because I really think this is the perfect fall read. It's giving Halloween Town. It's giving like Gilmore Girls, what is it, Star Hollows? Something like that, wherever Gilmore Girls is, that environment. But then there's ghosts. And like I said, like, I know it sounds weird because who wants to read a romance about ghosts? Like, can they even be together? Can they even touch? These questions are answered. This book is phenomenal. And I absolutely loved it. 5 stars. Started my month off great, and I really thought it was gonna stay that way. Haha. Haha. Okay, I lied. There was one more book that I gave above a 4-star. I gave Wait For It by Mariana Zapata a 4-star, which, if you know me, is the lowest I have ever rated a Mariana Zapata book. I am a massive Mariana Zapata fan. Most of her books are 5 stars. This one and I want to say Wait For It are the only 2 that I've ever given 4 stars. Now, this book was still phenomenal. I loved it so much, but it was so painfully slow burn. Like, not just, and a lot of people say that about all Mariana Zapata books, like The Wall of Winnipeg and Me is 700 something pages, okay? But this book was shorter than that, but I felt like it just dragged on and on and on. However, I loved Diana and Travis. Was that? No, that's not his name. Dallas. Why did I say Travis? I'm terrible at remembering characters' names. Anyway, this book is about Diana, who has custody of her brother's 2 sons after her brother unfortunately passes away. She buys this house across the street from one of her nephew's baseball coaches. He seems very grumpy, very closed off, and there's a lot of stuff going on at his house. There's a lot of yelling at his house, a lot of fighting at his house, a lot of random people standing outside his house. And so she's like, that guy's a little suspicious. I don't know about him. But they like get to know each other because of baseball, and they really connect, and it's a slow burn. And that's really the entire plot, is just it's slow burn and them getting to know each other. There's no like other stuff going on. I really enjoyed it. I did. I love Mariana Zapata's writing. I will say that recently, as I've been reading her books, sometimes her writing is a little bit more, like, she says pretty much every other page, and some other little quirky things like that. And so that really was very evident in this book. It might just be a personal pet peeve, but there are some things that basically, like, some things that just, it sounds like she's talking and like telling a story, but her characters are always so amazing. Her stories are always so amazing. So I can get over a few writing disagreements here and there. Okay, so for my most disappointing read of the month, we have Bet on It by Jodi Slaughter. I've seen a lot of people this month, this book came out like July 13th or something. My Barnes & Noble sold it to me before it was out. But I've heard a lot of people really enjoy this book, talk about like it's a popular new release and whatnot. I was so disappointed in it. I asked the girl at Barnes & Noble, I said, do you have any recommendations for like a curvy heroine with, or like a book with mental health representation? This book has both. Both of these characters have anxiety. This is a curvy heroine. You would think that this would be right up my alley. I did not feel the connection between them. I liked each of the characters individually, not liked each of the characters individually, but I didn't feel their connection, and I didn't feel why they needed to be together. I think that their lives made more sense separately. Okay, I'll tell you a little bit about what this book is about, but it's like not about much. This is Asia. She goes to bingo every Wednesday and sits next to his grandmother. What's his name? Walker. His name's Walker Abbott. And she sits next to his grandma. And his grandma falls down the stairs and breaks both of her arms. So Walker comes back to town, a town that he left many years ago, which was like a common theme with books I read this month. A town he left many years ago, like a decade ago, and hasn't been back to since, to take care of his grandma. And that includes going to Wednesday night bingo, because his grandma, who was the best part of this book, really just is very routine oriented and was not missing Wednesday night bingo. So yeah, I did enjoy the mental health representation. I actually related to Asia as a character a lot. What I didn't like is the characters' interactions with each other. I feel like they would be going on dates and stuff, and there would be all of these mentions of like, we sat in silence, or, you know, whatever, we sat quietly, There's silence? Like, there seemed to be more silence than talking, and I just don't see why they needed to be together. And I feel like a big part of a romance book is convincing the reader that the two characters need to be together. So, 2 stars. I was incredibly disappointed. Okay, so the next book that I read this month was The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams. This book I gave it 3 stars, which is a very disappointing rating for me to give it. Not because it was a bad book. It was actually a very, very good book until about 80% of the way through. And then, like a lot of books that I read, with the 3rd act breakup, it completely just screwed everything up. Everything. Not everything, but okay. This book is about a girl named Britta. Britta works for an online magazine, and part of her online magazine job is she is going to test this workout app as a curvy girl and kind of talk about what the different aspects of the app and like loving her body at the same time as like getting healthy, being healthier, which is a message I totally support. I really enjoyed a lot of they have like articles that she wrote in this book, and I really enjoyed a lot of the articles that she wrote. Then the guy who ends up training her through the app is actually the CEO of the app. He just wanted to pick up a couple more training clients, and they end up falling in love. Okay, now, this entire book, both of them are keeping secrets from one another. He doesn't know that Britta's a reporter, and Britta doesn't know that Wes is the CEO of the company and thinks he's just a trainer. And that's so irritating to me that I was waiting most of the book for that to just blow up in both of their faces. The entire book, I was on edge because I just kept thinking, like, they're gonna find out, that like whatever romantic encounter they're having right now isn't going to matter because they're going to find out that the other person is lying or not being completely truthful about who they are, and like that's going to ruin everything. Then the third act breakup in this book was awful, absolutely awful. Everything, the entire way that it went down, I hated this book. Nope, I didn't hate this book. Misspoke. I hated the third act breakup in this book. I hate third act breakups in general, but some of them I can tolerate. This one, nope, I cannot. I cannot. And it really just kind of ruined the rest of the book for me. And then the ending, like on top of the third act breakup, the ending just, it smoothed itself out so perfectly. It was just so perfect. Everything was fine. And like everything that happened the last, however many pages, it's fine now. We fixed it. Don't worry about it. We can be together. I don't buy that. So after 2 kind of disappointing romances, I was like, all right, I'm going to pick up some books that I have on my shelves that are not the romance genre. So I picked up Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. That was an interesting choice that I made. And I don't want to say a regrettable one, but it wasn't one that I'd do again. This book is about a queer atheist named Gilda. And she has severe anxiety and this just impending sense of doom. And she ends up working at a Catholic church, which is an interesting combination, wouldn't you say? And first of all, I love this cover. I think this cover, my camera's not going to focus. I think this cover is so adorable, and I just absolutely love this book for the cover. And I loved the way that Gilda's mind worked in this book. It was a very good look into the brain of someone with anxiety and the just swirling and stream of consciousness. However, the plot of this book, it was very repetitive, and I was irritated with all the characters, and the narrator was just so dour that I didn't really see the point. So I gave this book 3 stars. I think I forgot to say that. I gave this book 3 stars. I would recommend it for someone who likes Catcher in the Rye type books, or if you like Ottessa Moshfegh. If you like her, I would recommend this book, but it just wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. It was fine. It was a 3-star, but it wasn't great. Then, continuing with the disappointing reads, we have The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Again, I was trying to read something that wasn't a romance, so I picked up this thriller. Now, this was not as much a thriller as it was a book about a wedding and a lot of irritating characters, and then one character who was done real dirty. This book is about a wedding, like a very swanky wedding that is held on an island off the coast of Ireland, I want to say, and basically someone supposedly gets murdered at this wedding. Now, you don't find out who gets murdered at this wedding until at least 80% of the way through the book. You don't even find out who gets murdered. You get like page-long glimpses into like catastrophe. The first chapter is so intriguing. It's like the lights go out and you hear a scream. It's like fantastic. That's what I read this for. And then 300 something pages later, you get satisfied. You get, what you were promised. I was so incredibly disappointed in this book, and I didn't even it was predictable. I knew the ending. I guessed the ending. As you're collecting clues, it is a whodunit, and so the ending was just predictable. The book was boring. It took me so long to get through it. I gave it 2 stars, and I really want to read The Paris Apartment because everybody is talking about that right now. Everybody is really into that book right now. But this book also has really high Goodreads ratings, so I don't know that I trust people when it comes to Lucy Foley's writing. So maybe we'll leave The Paris Apartment alone for a minute. And then the last one is one that I'm kind of surprised that I haven't read yet, because I loved Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, and I loved See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I read The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This book was, again, the theme of the month. This book was fine. I gave it 3 stars. I really, really, really loved each of these characters individually. Way more, like I said, I liked the characters in Bed on It. These characters, I loved them, absolutely adored them. And I loved them together. But there was just something missing. I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I felt like the conclusion was unsatisfying and there was just something missing there. This book, okay, I keep forgetting to give synopses. This book is about two work rivals. I am on the train of like, they can't be enemies to lovers because they're not enemies because they're not trying to kill each other. These two work rivals work at a public radio station and it's Grumpy Sunshine, of course. Dominic is Grumpy and then Shay is Sunshine, and they get put together to work on a podcast, or not a podcast, a radio show called The X Talk, where they are exes who give relationship advice and talk about relationships. The kicker is that they never dated, they aren't exes, they are lying to everyone. And again, there was like that impending sense of doom. I hate when I can guess what the third act breakup is. I hate that. I hate that. If you have any recommendations for books, like romance books that don't have the third act breakup, leave them in the comments below because I'm really big on that. I'm really big on books that don't have the third act breakup. Anyway, I digress. It's not that I didn't feel their connection. I don't know. I didn't really like any of the characters around them. There were scenes between the two of them that I really, really liked, but there was nothing that made my heart like jump or squeeze or be happy. It was just kind of a book I read, and it was a really quick read. I don't regret reading it. I'm happy that I read it because I love Rachel and Solomon and I will continue to read the books that she puts out. But The Weather Girl, nope, not The Weather Girl, it's just Weather Girl. Weather Girl is still my number one by her. I also think that her books do follow a lot of the same formula though, in that workplace romances, and they have like a common goal, and the third act breakup, like there's a big event that they're working up to. I don't know. It's just, I really loved Weather Girl, and I felt like Weather Girl and the X Talk are really similar, but Weather Girl was just done so much better, which is funny because it's by the same author. Anyway guys, that was my July wrap up. I was pretty disappointed in it. I hope that you are not as disappointed in your July wrap-ups. Also, something you might notice is I didn't stick to my TBR, and so I will not be making an August TBR. I'm kind of just gonna fly by the seat of my pants and read based on my mood, which is what I should do anyway. I don't know why I tried to make a TBR. I thought maybe it'd be fun. It was fun to make, however, I didn't follow it. That's all for today, guys. I hope that you like, subscribe, and comment if you feel so inclined, and I will see you when I see you. Bye, guys.